This week on the big show, final month of the year has officially arrived, and we're still processing the landmark news of Warner Brothers' decision to move the content straight to HBO Max. We'll talk about what that means for the future of the movie theaters as well as indie films. Plus, we'll talk about the best holiday movies. Got to stop that because something bad is going to happen to our licensing. Hold that thought right there. Long story, but yeah, we'll stop that right there. In addition, Wilson Morales will recap the week in entertainment, and we'll have all that and more on episode 429. Hopefully, you can hear it after that. I'm keeping it real with FilmGordon. Let's go. Hey, welcome to the latest episode of Keeping It Real with FilmGordon.
Are we still on? Are we still
Christmas music beforehand, but since that's not royalty-free music, we don't want to get in trouble because they'll be like, "We putting a block on your show."
Are we still on? Are we still on?
We are still on, man. I mean, we never stopped, man. I just had to pause and stop some music. But welcome to episode 429. Charles Kirkland, how you doing today, brother?
I'm doing pretty good today.
Yeah. You know, when you start off pre-show listening to, I get Luther's got two classic Christmas songs. That was the one from 1976 that we were listening to every Christmas, every year on Christmas time.
Every year, every Christmas.
Back in the old days, pre-pandemic, there was a time that assistant producer Charles Kirkland would mix in, have a list of Christmas songs that we could play. But the overlords at YouTube don't like when we play those because they put a block on our show because we don't have permission to play them. Now, we have a bunch of royalty-free music, Charles, that it's just not as sexy as the good stuff, but that's another story.
Royalty-free for Christmas just doesn't work.
Yeah. So, but yes, as you heard on the top, man, we got a lot to discuss today. Warner Brothers move, man. Wow, that was epic earlier this week, and we will get more into that when Wilson Morales stops by in a couple of minutes. In addition to that, it's December, so it's time to talk about these holiday movies. And, you know, if you just Google, you know, everybody's got their own holiday list, depending on if you want to go classic films, if you want to go more contemporary. I've seen a lot of them. So, yeah, we should actually have a conversation because, Charles, I know you may not be a fan or at least have seen from start to finish The Godfather, but I realize that as a film critic, you have watched a lot of holiday films. So we're not going to put you on the spot and ask you, like, you have seen, like, It's a Wonderful Life and things of that nature. I mean, I'm just guessing because, you know, anytime somebody says I've never seen either of the two Godfathers in totality, one must question one's ability to what they have watched. I'm being nice about it. I mean, you know, this is a running gag.
Yeah,
see my face, look.
It is a running gag with you, but that's okay. I'm all right with that because It's a Wonderful Life happens to be one of my all-time favorite movies. So, you know, if depending on when you ask me, I'll say that it is my favorite movie of all time. So you know,
you have seen that one from start to finish.
As a matter of fact, my family, we used to act it out as we watched it. I can almost say every line from the film.
Excuse me, I just want to, without looking over. Excuse me, the person who's in the studio with me, Charles says he's watched It's a Wonderful Life, and him and his family acted out. Any reaction to that, ma'am? No reaction?
No,
Charles?
good. Well, I mean, what can she say
to that one?
What can she say to that?
Everybody now suddenly has It's a Wonderful Life as their favorite movie. It's a Wonderful Life. No. It's funny because when people talk about It's a Wonderful Life, when it initially came out in 1946,
it flopped. It was a flop.
It was a huge flop. Nobody was digging on this movie at the time. But you know, you kind of let a little time evolve and people catch up, and it does what it does. So, all right, so we got a lot of show to talk about. You heard it at the top, and without any further ado, we will bring in the man who has his curtain game on fleek every time I see him.
This is always jokey joke with you, man. Come
Well,
on.
it's Christmas time, man, like Luther said. So we are waiting on Black Film and TV's.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
He's talking to us with no picture. I don't know what that means.
It means like you want to make fun of my curtains.
Hey, I didn't make fun of your curtains, man. I mean, you know, last week on yeah. Can you lower it down? Because we really would make fun of you. This is the editor-in-chief of Black Film and TV. He is also an Oscarologist, which I've found is a new word that I was looking up on Gold Derby today. And Wilson Morales, welcome to the show, brother.
Good. For the audiences out there, this is what you call being picked on, you know, bullying.
You know, the thing that's interesting about Wilson, right? I've watched Wilson do a lot of media, right? The only time you get some Wilson Morales personalities when he shows up here every Saturday. You don't get this Wilson any other time when he's in New York doing TV, when he's out doing these stiff spots. You don't get no Wilson personality.
No. You know, this is, you get this all day, every day. You know, you just look at it different. You know?
Okay. All right. Whatever, man.
Hey, Wilson, I enjoy the fact that we have you stay longer on some shows so you can witness the abuse that I usually get, or you can absorb some of the abuse that I usually get because I'm here with him, just the two of us. So I appreciate you being here so you can spread it around.
I just got out of the Zoom. It's still going on, but there was an amazing Zoom thing happening right now, being run by the NAACP with the women of Warner Brothers. Nice. And that includes showrunner D. Harris Lawrence from All Rise, Simone Missick, Rosie Perez from Flight Attendant, Javicia Leslie, who's going to be the new Batwoman.
Yeah.
You know, there's a number of women that's out there. Just, you know, they're speaking about, you know, being in the business, from some who are entering a certain stage in their career in this business, whether they're getting lead roles. For those like Rosie Perez, who's been in the game for 33 years, as we all know, she started out as a choreographer, you know, and to see that not so much has changed in terms of women of color from 30 years ago to now. You know, it's gotten better from what Rosie says. Obviously, she, you know, she was at it 30 years ago. You know, not all everybody was in that Zoom was around 30 years ago. Right. You know, so she's seeing the evolutions, you know, throughout, you know, her career.
Well, it's interesting. You talked about Warner Brothers. I saw that call and I didn't get on that one because I knew you would. So no need of both of us being in the same place. Earlier this week, we were both in the same place. I felt uncomfortable. I don't want to be in the same place with Wilson Morales doing the same work. We're doing the same thing. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you got it. You go ahead on and handle that.
You never know. Sometimes, you know, if there needs to be, you know, two people of color in the room out of a certain amount of people, you never know. Two different opinions, opposed to like, I don't need to be the only brother out here, you know?
My grandfather used to say 2 heads are better than 1, even if they're cabbage heads. So a presence is a presence. Well,
you know, and it's also interesting. I forgot, you and I were on the same call yesterday, and that one was kind of cool. The one with Deion Taylor and his wife talking about Fatal. That was hot.
Well, yeah, you know, Deion's always, you know,
Deion was good.
Real, you know, he's a filmmaker, and sometimes, you know, and he knows the plight that reporters, writers, you know, whether you're reporting online, on TV, or the radio, he knows the plight that we're going through. You know, I think in my conversation a while back, you know, directors have DGA, actors have SAG, but writers, whether you're a freelance or not, you know, we don't have a union.
Not everybody. Well, they got WGA. There's a Writers Guild.
Writers Guild.
I'm talking about those are like writers. I'm talking about like journalists.
Oh, right. Well, journalists have CCA. We have the Critics' Choice Association.
Not necessarily. You know, CCA is more about, it's a Critics' Choice Association, not necessarily like, oh, you know, you're out of work. Let's gather up and throw you some funds. No.
Right. Well, that's true. That part is true. That is very true. But
like, on that end, but this whole week has been like a game changer, as we saw earlier. Warner Brothers.
We get ready to talk about it now. So go ahead, set it up, Wilson, because I'm going to ask you about this, what it means.
Well, we knew some of that. When you knew Wonder Woman was the tipping point. Once you knew that, a movie that made $800 million, that they're going to bring their sequel to HBO Max in theaters, you had to look at different factors. One, where can we put it in 2021? It's the slate for next year is so packed. I'll be surprised by the film that's number one for 3 weeks, let alone if they can make it to 4. Because every week is going to be something big, which is going to bring people back to theaters when they come back. We're in the second wave of the pandemic, and things are, cases are rising. We're not even near winter where everybody's going to be, home. And obviously you knew there was going to be a wave for Thanksgiving, and there'll be another second wave when people go home for Christmas. Because that's nature. It's natural for families to be together. And so with the theaters closed worldwide, you have to now fall back and is it about making money or is it about entertaining the audiences? And obviously, HBO has Warner Bros. Has HBO Max, and they see how well Disney's probably doing with Mulan and Soul and Hamilton and Beyonce. They're finding ways of bringing their audiences there. Because you're not going to get families going to the theaters no time soon. No one's going to come with a family of 5 to the theater, for these animated films that they got. So your best bet is to bring it to them at a cost. So
okay,
Warner Bros.
Wait a minute, Wilson. All right, so there's a couple of factors we need to discuss about this, which is why everybody talked about it earlier this week. You've got Netflix, which initially started off as a video platform, which is now built into a major. And they've been fighting the studios for years, or at least the last several years, on what the public we call a theatrical window. It used to be like 90 days. Your movie would be in the theaters for 90 days before it went to a streaming platform. They fought it down to like 74 was acceptable. So now what the decision of Warner Brothers is doing is Warner Brothers is now saying that we're going to put our films in theaters and then on the same day give you the option of watching them on HBO Max. So there is no more 90 days, 74 day or whatever window. There's no more window at all. So the landmark part of this, in my estimation, is that if Disney, and I said, I was telling somebody the other day, I said, if you hear of a movie from the MCU, like if Marvel puts an MCU movie on Disney Plus, and they go and they try to follow Warner Brothers examples, I understand what you're saying, Wilson, that it's going to be packed with all of these titles that are coming out one after the other in 2021. But right now, there is no light. Even if you say we have a vaccine coming, there's really technically no light at the end of the tunnel. There's no date where we can go, okay, on September the 1st, the pandemic is over. All the movies are going back into theaters and people going back. This is going to be a slow drip of getting people back, because it's not just about putting movies back in the theaters, but it's also about consumer confidence that people want to gather again. So again, like I said, man, this thing right here to me is a much larger thing that I think I think people sort of get it and understand it because of the technology and this is the future and where we were headed. But once you take the genie out the bottle, how do you put the genie back in? What happens is, do Warner Brothers go back in 22 and go, okay, we're going to stop taking the movies off of HBO Max and we're going to go and put them back in the theaters? They're going to lose money, because when you're going straight from you own HBO Max and then you can actually take your product and put it on HBO Max, you've totally eliminated the middleman. There is no theater to pay. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. We just going straight profit, make it, straight from the studio, and giving it straight to you with nobody in between.
Yeah, I recently saw Wonder Woman 1984, and Warner Brothers had given me the option, like, do I want to see it in theaters, or I want to see it at home, or do I want to see it at home? I chose, let me see it at home. One, I live in New York, so there's no theaters out there. But let's just say I'm in DC or one of these other states. I'm like, I'm not going to do that. Where one of my other colleagues lives in the Long Island, where theaters are open there, and he chose the theater route. And he said he went there, this was yesterday, 3 people in there. Granted, for him, it's safety. But I'm like, you know what? We're all home. I got, we're all, hopefully a lot of us have these big flat screen TVs. We've now spent more than 6 months getting comfortable watching movies at home. Like you said, the genie's out the bottle. Why would I go to the theater, pay $15, whatever the amount is, and popcorn, when jobs are being lost and you want to act like you got money, when I can be like, no, that $15 can go towards food, towards, and I can stay home, as opposed to like, and if you're going to the movie theaters, you're paying for transportation, whether you're driving, you're spending gas, or you're taking a subway or a bus, either way, it's like, it's time out of your life. And before it was no factor, but now it is, and so, all those movies that they've got going there, from Dune, the Will Smith movie where he plays Venus and Serena's father. You got, I think, the Batman. I could be
King
wrong.
Richard. Yeah, you're talking about King Richard. With
Richard. There's a slate, in the Heights, a slate of films. And I'm sure, some theater chains have already said, we don't like it. Of course, because, you're taking money out of their pocket. But it's like, what's to do? It's like, you guys have not provided any safety through no fault of their own. It's a pandemic. It's like, when your state, like LA, is telling you, stay home, we're on a lockdown, how are you going to put people in theaters? The whole point. Yeah, when everybody's telling you, stay home, don't get near each other. If they're not family or whatever, what are you doing? What are you doing outside? Like, you want to be that bold guy going, I want to see a movie. I got to get out the house. No.
Let's talk about the economics of it, Wilson, because the first Wonder Woman made $800 million at the box office, right? So, of course, I'm not sure exactly what HBO Max's model is going to be, if they're going to try to emulate what Disney did earlier, that you subscribe and then you pay, X amount, $29.99 or whatever. But you're also looking at the fact that, and I saw Warner Brothers put in their statement that we're hoping to increase subscriptions to HBO Max, which they hope in turn will bring the money back. But you're leaving a lot of money on the table if you are having people pay a one-time fee and then they can download a movie. Sort of what Disney's model is. Now, Disney made a lot of money from what we understand from doing Mulan and from doing Hamilton. The jury's still out on Soul because Soul hasn't really hit their platform and won't hit it until Christmas Day. But I wonder about the economics of it. If it's a sustainable, I don't think it's a sustainable model. I think that's going to be my issue.
The studios will win because, as we know, whatever your budget is, you split with the theaters. So if your movie costs $100 million, you need to double that because because the theaters are going to take half the take. But if you're doing a streaming platform, you're cutting out the middleman. You're cutting out the theater. So now it's your profit. The question goes for those outside producers, what do they get out of it?
Right.
They're the ones who have to say to themselves, I'm not making much. You take a movie like Get Out, a lot of movies are known for certain reasons. Get Out was known because of how well it did at the box office. You're going to always have a lot of critically acclaimed films, but if no one sees it, no one talks about it. But when you have a movie that costs $4 million and grosses over 280 worldwide, it speaks volumes. The movie would have still had its reputation, but nobody would be talking. I don't think it would be as highly buzzed if it weren't for the box office. The box office helped it out. Like, what's this movie everybody's talking about? It's no different than food or whatever. Whenever there's a commercial, there's a long line to get this or that. So I think you need, theaters need those, and sometimes for some effect films. At the end of the day, we've had a lot of films being released this year. Not a lot of independent films, but to their benefit, in a way, they've been able to get acclaim without the use of the box office, which is good because now their film can still be talked about. Because usually if a movie doesn't do well at the box office, you're not talking about it like 3 weeks after its release. You know, if it flops, okay, it's DOA, nobody wants to go see it, it must not be good. If it's on a streaming platform, let me go check out. Netflix definitely broke the door by having these movies out without you talking about the box office. And so, and you know, I wouldn't say they've been the clear winner, but they've had the movies with the big with the film people, with the A-list and B-list stars. You know, because outside of the Marvel IP property, you still have a lot of names that sell. You know, Charlize Theron. You know, Chris Hemsworth. You know, Gary Oldman. You know, it's like Spike Lee. You know, these are names that you don't talk about on a TV world. You know, you see these names, you start wondering, what film do they have out now? I want to go check it out. You know?
Right.
I think you hit the nail really on the head when you were talking about Netflix. Netflix has set the streaming model for everyone. So HBO, Disney, all these people are just going to follow after Netflix's model where it cuts out all the middlemen. They just make a movie and put it on their service. People see it. What's going to happen is the independent filmmakers are the ones that's going to lose out.
And that's where I was going next. Go ahead, Charles.
They're going to have to look for deals to get in with these big studios, and there's just not enough room for all these independent filmmakers. They're the ones that's going to really suffer.
And let me jump in. So to Wilson's point and to Charles's point, we've sat at home since March, right? And here we are now in December. And for the last 8 months, we've been streaming movies. There have been so many movies that have come out, smaller films, The Assistant early this year. A lot of these films have gotten lost in the wash. We talk about The 24th from Kevin Wilmot, which is another film. My issue is that if we're going down this road and you have the Netflixes and a Netflix, a Disney Plus, HBO Max, I think Universal was using Peacock. So if you don't have an affiliation to a streaming service and you're trying to go, video on demand, you're going to be in trouble. Your movie is going to get lost between the cracks. And I think that's what we've seen happen with a lot of smaller indie films this year, which is why this is not good news if you're if you're a producer making small films.
Now, at the end of the day, 2021, with so many of the big films finding spaces to hit theaters whenever they come back, these theaters, having lost so much money already, they want to hit the ground running. So whether they're allowed to bring in 25% or 50%, they're going to want to pack it in with the big films that they're going to know they're going to make. The James Bond film, the Fast and the Furious film. That independent film is not going to get. It's like, I don't know. There's no. Who is the star again? Great story, but there's no name that's going to help sell it. And this is the year, filmmakers, your best bet is, like you said, get on these platforms, whether it's on Netflix, and that's hard, so we don't know their world in terms of how hard it is to get one of these platforms to, to air you on. It's like, even on demand, it's like, and if you come on demand, you're going to have to do twice as much marketing, because now you have to find out, like, who wants to pay for movies at home? Bottom line is, unless your movie's going to cost the same amount as the theaters, you can't be charging $29 for on-demand movies for you to watch it at home.
Man.
If it's not a name that you don't recognize, there's no way that's
tough,
going to work.
Man. It's tough, and like you said, the marketing is the key. Like, for instance, Unhinged came out early this year, which had Russell Crowe in it, and there have been other movies that have had A-list names in the film, but if your movie's not good, like a Mel Gibson movie or some of these other films that come out, I'm like, I don't know what you do. And I think the other thing, and Wilson, Charles, both you and everybody on this call can speak to this. There was a time, right, where at least in our market, we had 2 PR agencies that we kind of sift through all of the movies. They would kind of, set the schedule. We would know what theater we needed to be in on what day. They would provide us the marketing materials, the interview opportunities, all that stuff. Same thing for you, Wilson. You independently knew from, had the relationships built with each individual studio, and you just kind of did your thing. But you take that marketing aspect or that PR aspect out, and it now feels like it's the wild, wild west. You just you get in where you fit in, you build your relationships, you do what you do, but it has not worked well. I mean, the whole system is sort of out of whack for all of us, and on the fly, we've had to try to figure out how to kind of rebuild what we now know as the normalcy of the business now versus what it was.
Yeah, it's like you just got to find a way. You have to adapt. Like pivot and say, okay, let's strategize. Let's have a meeting. How do we sell these movies? Who do we call to get the buzz going? Social media is now the bigger thing in order to, because you only can use social media. No one's outside and look at billboards. No one's going outside. You don't have those billboards by the buses up on, in the billboards on top of whatever buildings or whatever. So, but what everybody else is doing, since this pandemic has started, is everybody's online. They're looking at their phones. They're looking at Twitter and IG and Facebook. So now you're spending your money there, and now you're finding, okay, who can promote this? Let people know I have this product coming out. Let them, now how can they get to it? Whether it's a movie that's going to be a lifetime or a movie that's actually a movie without a commercial, you have to sell it. You have to do a lot more, to get these across. And it's been a good year in terms of quantity and quality. I said the other day, it's like there's been a lot of good Black films out there. You could look at 2018 when Black Panther came out and it made all that money and it's top 10, top 5 all time. And then you say to yourself, what else came out that year? It's like, it can't just be one film,
right,
which drove in a big audience and nobody else benefits. Where in a year like we have this year, we've got a Ma Rainey, we've got a 1-9 in Miami. You've got a Spike Lee movie. You had the Bad Boys earlier this year.
Jingle Jangle.
You got a Juneteenth.
You got Silver Love. I mean, you got the 24th. I mean, you had a lot of movies. You're right.
Of all genre, out there. You've got movies that features a lot of kids. A lot of female directors that are out this year. Now it's a matter of us, the press, letting people know that these films and these talents are out there. Who's gonna come out of this? Who's gonna benefit from this? Who's gonna come out and where it's like, oh, I saw them in that movie or whatever that people are talking about. And let it go viral. So we just gotta not say soldier on, but just gotta move on and adapt. What else we got coming out this year? What else came out this past week that people are talking about? It's like sometimes
this weekend, of course, and Wilson, you still reviewing, right?
Yeah.
Okay, no, I'm asking because I'm not looking at Wilson's reviews. I'm looking at all the other stuff you're doing. But I know in theaters this week on our site, and Wilson, I'll ask you which reviews you got going on new this week. We've got Mank, of course, that's out on Netflix right now, as well as Charles did Godmother. Boy, you are a good man, because I'm telling you, I watched Godmother yesterday.
I saw Godmother. Here's the thing, sometimes you need a fluffy movie. Don't knock it down. Don't be going looking for the Messiah when you go watch a movie. So like, it is what it is. It's Disney.
That's all it is.
They did it for a certain audience. They've got their base.
I wrote and on the tease, Wilson, I said Disney doing Disney things. I was not happy though, Wilson, with the fact that they have now appropriated Motherland for fairy godmothers. I thought the motherland was Africa. When did we lose the motherland? Like, was there a meeting? Did I miss it? Like, what happened?
Not now.
I love putting Wilson on the spot, man. Like, yeah. So Mank, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, and Godmother are and I'm sorry, I'm Your Woman with Rachel Brosnahan.
Yeah.
Also reviewed that as well.
theaters, but it will hit Amazon next week.
Right. So next week we have, because I was told not to put my reviews up early, we can put up Soul. I guess we could put up Fatale, The Prom. I think opens next week. I'm saying we have permission to put the reviews up because you don't want to put the reviews up so far ahead that you can't check them out.
Sometimes you're putting up a movie, and granted, the whole point of the review is to entice an audience to go see it, whether it's good or bad.
Right.
Sometimes you don't want to do it too early because news is traveling so fast that before you know it, if you put out your review 2 weeks in advance, it's like people forget. Like I forget what I did 2 weeks ago.
Well, I was telling Charles yesterday, there were some movies that we saw at the film festival. When you do film festival coverage, you can put movies up in advance. And I want to bring some of those back, like One Night in Miami, Sylvie's Love, along with Soul. I think there are like 7 or 8 movies that are opening on Christmas Day. It's just nuts. And that's including Wonder Woman.
Including Wonder Woman, yeah.
Including Wonder Woman. So Christmas Day, there's going to be tons of stuff to watch. But
you're going to be home. Like there's nothing, yesterday it's kind of funny. I did see Wonder Woman, and then I happened to get into conversation with Gal and Patty and wore my little tiara as they wanted us to. Shamelessly.
Look. Look, Wilson. I'm not clowning you. I remember Travis and I went and did an interview, and I'm trying to remember what is the name. It was How to Train Your Dragon.
Yeah.
And they made us put on those Viking helmets, and I was like, really? So we sitting up there like. So yes, from time to time. Come on, really?
Gosh.
Oh, man, yeah, I've been there, man. It was not fun. It's like shamelessly, we had to put them on, like. But so no, we got half of our show is done. So I wanted to talk about holiday movies, and there's a list and there's several lists of holiday movies, but. Part of my reticence a lot of times in discussing the holiday movies is that we don't really have a lot of classic Black holiday films, right? Because, when we talk about classic films, the only time you saw Black people, like in the classic films, we were either bringing somebody a drink or opening a door in one of these old school movies. I'm just being real, man. Like when you talk about White Christmas and Holiday Inn. I just watched White Christmas about a week ago, and I was playing it loud in the house, and somebody came downstairs and looked at me as if to say, like, what the heck are you watching? I'm like, yo, man, this is Bing Crosby and I forget the other actor's name who was in it. But when we talk about these classic movies, Wilson, I think our experience, and since you work specifically in the Black film space, you know exactly what I'm talking about, man. What year do you have your first classic Black holiday film? And I'm talking about not this Christmas in 2007 or Jingle Jangle this year. I'm talking about like the Best Man Holiday. That was like 2 years ago.
Actually, I think some people would say that The Preacher's Wife was the first.
Now you're talking about the remake with Denzel Washington and Whitney Houston. So that was within the last 20 years. Anything else? Am I missing?
I can't recall.
The last holiday was. Somebody said the last holiday. The last holiday was within the last 10 years.
Yeah.
I'm talking about when I say classic Black holiday films, I'm like, I'm sure I'm missing something because I'm trying to think through it.
I don't think you are. I don't think there exists.
Watch this. If Wilson Morales doesn't know, we in trouble. that's my point. Like,
constitutes,
I mean, would you call Die Hard a Christmas movie?
Okay, now see, I thought you were talking about Black, but it's
I'm talking about Black. You had a Black guy in it. I'm just saying. No, I'm serious. I'm not being funny. I'm saying I'm reaching because I'm trying to figure out. I'm doing the research of going through these movies. I'm like, man, I can't think of anything that might be 25 years old. That's a Black holiday film.
Yeah.
Seriously, I mean, I'm looking through a list right now.
I don't think it exists. I mean,
You can dig it. I'm sure you're gonna find something that we've seen. The question is it a classic?
Look at this, man. No, I haven't found anything yet, man. And then this list right here is kind of loose because there's some movies on here that I don't think are good yet. I'm sorry, The Preacher's Wife was in 1996. That was Denzel Washington and Whitney Houston. So that's 24 years ago. Love Actually had Chiwetel Ejiofor as a part of the ensemble, but you wouldn't call that quote unquote a Black Christmas classic.
And that's even more recent than The Preacher's Wife.
Yeah, that was like 2003. So yeah, I'm looking, man. I think about this a lot because when I always see people put out Christmas lists, I'm always like, where are the movies for people of color, not just African Americans, but Hispanics. I just don't know, man. I mean, we don't have a huge history of our stories being told, so that's why people have to always go back. Excuse me. In holiday music, yes, you're absolutely right. The Best Man Holiday was 2013.
That's not really like. It was centered around holidays, but that's
but it's still a Christmas film because it takes place around the Christmas holiday. So you would count that much like you would count This Christmas. I mean, even though This Christmas is actually in the title, it's the same sort of a story that was a holiday themed story. So I don't know, Wilson. I'll leave this to you. They put Trading Places on there, which I would not call Trading Places a Christmas film.
I never would have considered that a holiday movie.
Somebody talking about it was Christmassy because it happens around the holidays. I'm like, come on, man. Y'all are you stretching like I'm stretching right now trying to figure this out when I'm looking at some of these movies that are on the list.
Is A Dream for Christmas on your list? Because I know that came out in the 70s.
A Dream for Christmas. Share with us what A Dream for Christmas is.
It's about a minister who relocates his family, and I'm trying to remember it all, but it was back in the 70s. It was more of an independent. We lost Wilson. It was more of an independent film. It's not. I remember seeing it growing up, but I wouldn't call it a classic. But it was an African American Black Christmas story, I guess you could tell. 1974. Three or four?
Well, again, like I said, I will trust you on this one, but that's not something I'm familiar with. And I think it speaks to exactly what I'm talking about, that we probably need to make more holiday films, man, because for whatever reason, man, we have not been plentiful or fruitful in that area. And, of course, people talk about classic films. You talk about It's a Wonderful Life. You talk about Holiday Inn. You talk about some of the more traditional, ones that people like. Elf, I wouldn't look at. To me, it wouldn't be a classic. It might be a classic to somebody. The Last Holiday, I didn't think was good. So that
Time out. You
with
said
Queen Latifah and LL Cool. Yeah,
I'm going back to Elf. Elf is not a classic.
It might be a classic for you. It's not a classic for me. You see, Wilson got his head down.
Elf is fun when he goes, Santa! Santa's here! Come on.
Elf is a modern day classic, much like A Christmas Story or any of those other ones that have come out in the recent times. And all we have as African American are modern classics. So we have to take what we have and do what we can with what we got. And so I don't have a problem with saying the Preacher's Wife is our classic, even though I didn't like the movie because I enjoyed The Bishop's Wife so much more, and how they bastardized the story to me was terrible, but it is one of our classics. So
well, the fact that Denzel Washington and Whitney Houston had zero chemistry in that film.
They weren't supposed to. He's an angel. He's not supposed to fall in love with a human being. He was supposed to be getting Courtney B. Vance in love with Whitney Houston. That was the whole purpose.
Okay.
The reason why they messed all that up from the bishop's wife is what got me.
I wish Denzel would call in right now. I'd be like, Denzel, talk to me about this movie with you and Whitney.
Like, yo, did you take a check on that one? Yo, Denzel.
Hey, Wilson, that was not one of Denzel's classic films.
No.
That all in saying, you know.
Wait a minute. They had Batman Returns as a Christmas movie. Somebody, Esquire, has this in an article.
And for the same reason people say Die Hard is a Christmas movie, because it happened around Christmas time and had stuff about Christmas in it.
Oh, now I'm gonna tell you the one that's a modern film. Now, again, I talked about it earlier, is Love Actually. I love Love Actually. That is one of my Christmas films that I watch every year. That's really good. Now, if you want to talk about a movie that just came out last year, and I'm going to talk about this one, is the animated Netflix film that was nominated for an Academy Award last year. Klaus. Klaus was great.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, I think Jingle All the Way. Okay, I'm just going down the list.
Come on, you're not expecting a thespian performance from him, are you?
From Arnold Schwarzenegger? No. Yeah, I'm looking. It happened on Fifth Avenue. That's kind of a classic. Edward Scissorhands. I mean, the Santa Claus I thought was cute. With Tim Allen, I thought that was cute.
The Santa Claus was 1994. I remember that. It was good.
See, look, Ding Ding Wilson. That was pretty good. How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Now, ironically, since I grew up watching the television special in the 60s.
Animated one is
that was the one. Like this one with Jim Carrey.
Can't beat the animated one, you know, because that's embedded in your head because you watched it as a kid every year.
Correct, sir.
Boris Karloff's voice is unbeatable.
Okay, I got one for you that nobody thought about. What about The Long Kiss Goodnight?
Somebody mentioned that. If you honest with you, it's like
Samuel Jackson it's another one of those Die Hard type Christmas movies. It's not really. I mean, it's just around the. You say the same thing about Planes, Trains, and Automobiles because.
No. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles in Dutch are Thanksgiving movies because those are. I call those Thanksgiving-esque. Like it's around Thanksgiving. It's in the area, so it counts as Thanksgiving, much in the same way that The Long Kiss Goodnight with Charlie Baltimore and Samuel L. Jackson, to me, kind of fits in there, but I wouldn't call it a classic Christmas story. No.
I enjoy watching a movie called The Ref, which with Dennis Leary, and that takes place at Christmas time too. But is it a Christmas film? I don't know, but I enjoy watching it.
I like watching it because it has that name of that actor that no one that shall not be named anymore.
All right, Wilson and Charles. Somebody put Eyes Wide Shut on a Christmas list. Eyes Wide Shut? No. Look. You stretching. You are really stretching. Little Women.
It's not good. It was came out last year.
No, but I'm saying Little Women, a Christmas movie, Wilson?
No one thinks of it as a Christmas movie.
All right, so here you go. Malcolm D. Lee reassembles the cast from his 1999 feature with a group of old friends reuniting for the first time after 50 years for Christmas, The Best Man Holiday.
That's a Christmas movie.
That's a Christmas movie. All right, so we are good on that one. Charlie Brown Christmas, I'm assuming by virtue that it's called the Charlie Brown Christmas, it would be a Christmas film.
Yeah.
There's Elf on the list. The Apartment. I don't know how you figure The Apartment is a Christmas movie. That 1960 Jack Lemmon, Shirley MacLaine movie.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
No.
Y'all are stretching, man, on this list, man. Some of this stuff is just not even remotely close. Bad Santa. I wouldn't call Bad Santa a classic, but it is a Christmas movie. Miracle on 34th Street. Scrooged with Bill Murray. That was a good one.
Yeah.
With Alfred Woodard. Home Alone. Is Home Alone a Christmas movie, Wilson?
Absolutely.
You would take Home Alone. All right, White Christmas, and White Christmas. Remember when I rewatched it, the white is really huge in White Christmas. It's very white.
I think Holiday Inn is still the better movie of if you're comparing the two, White Christmas and Holiday Inn, which have the same song, but it came first from Holiday Inn, not White Christmas.
Well, the one that it finished number one on this list, and I would absolutely agree, It's a Wonderful Life, man. Let's talk a little bit about It's a Wonderful Life, man. It's a Wonderful Life. Why has that one movie that is now 70, almost 75 years old, why is that one movie kind of stuck in the consciousness of people so well? What is it about Frank Capra's story and Jimmy Stewart's acting, along with Donna Reed? You know, you've got a spiritual element to it. There's a revisionist element in it where, you know, he's George Bailey who left, and I'm sorry, instead of leaving, never left. His brother left and kind of went out into the world and did this thing, and he stayed fighting Mr. Potter and the savings and loan. I mean, what is it about It's a Wonderful Life? I mean, I got theories, but I want to hear from you guys. Charles, you lead off because Wilson always has lots of thoughts on this. Charles, you lead off.
I believe that the whole thing comes down to the same thing that got Obama elected. It's about hope. It's about you know, finding your purpose in the world, and that you actually have something, and that, you know, George Bailey is in the bottom of his despair, and at the end, he's redeemed. It's about that hope that your life means something. Everybody wants that kind of relationship in their life, that they feel like their life means something, and that's why it resonates with everyone who sees the movie, I think.
Wilson?
Exactly. You know, I think, you know, it's one of the oldest movies out there, you know, and it's been around for such a long time that, you know, people watch it all the time because it involves family, and especially you can watch that now, especially with, you know, with people going through troubling times, and you need a movie that they can see. If you're watching that for the first time right now, to some people they're gonna be like, that's what's happening to us. Mm-hmm. And in the end, you know, you find hope. You know, and even though it's a movie, sometimes people need a little bit of escape, but they need a positive escape. You know, and that's why people kind of see it all the time. But, you know, you also have, like I said, Jimmy Stewart, and he was your everyday man who was like, you know, you don't want to see your everyday man down on his knees, like, you know, it's like you always want to see him winning. You know, you don't want to see him, you always want to see him winning. You know, but he played it well. You know, so It's a Wonderful Life is a classic. You know, they teach it at school. You know, like, oh, let's break it down. You know.
All right, so let me make the pivot then.
Everybody roots for an underdog. George Bush was the underdog, and he came out on top.
All right, well, let me make the pivot then. So if we consider It's a Wonderful Life kind of the quintessential holiday film, which one will we consider as the quintessential Black holiday film?
That's still gonna be a tough call. Let me see if I Google. Like, I don't know what you were Googling, but if you go Black.
No, I'm just saying this Christmas might be the one. I mean,
Medea's Christmas. You don't go for that one.
Which one?
Medea's Christmas.
Why you get crickets?
Do not adjust the audio.
Hey man, you know, me and Tyler Perry, we have a working relationship these days that I have stopped crushing Tyler Perry's movies, and if I don't have anything positive to say, I have nothing bad to say about Tyler Perry as a director. He has his own style, he does his own thing. But no, Medea Christmas, you trying to set me up. And I have nothing negative to say about that other than I don't think it's a classic movie. It's not Claus. It's not This Christmas. It's not Jingle Jangle. It's not any of these movies. Jingle Jangle.
What about The Perfect Holiday? I mean, yeah, The Perfect Holiday.
Now, wait a minute. I get the last and perfect confused all the time. I'm just saying because they both have the last holiday is Queen Latifah and LL Cool J.
Perfect Holiday is Morris Chestnut and Gabrielle Union.
Yeah, that wasn't good at all.
Holiday Heart with Ving Rhames.
I remember Holiday Heart. Holiday Heart, where Ving is playing, what will we describe Ving as? Transgender. Thank you.
Yeah.
I remember that. I think it was a good television movie. I don't think it's a classic.
Friday After Next.
Oh man, Cat Williams is funny in that.
Yeah.
But as a classic, nah, it's not Friday.
How about The Last Boy Scout?
No.
Huh? What?
You mean the movie that Halle Berry dies in the first 5 minutes?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that would be a no.
Okay. Just checking. It is a Christmas movie.
Anybody else? You got any other movies? So this kind of speaks to where I'm at. With we don't have classics. We got some movies. This Christmas, I think, is probably the classic. Trying to think of what else. The Last Holiday, which I wasn't a big fan of initially when it came out, it's watchable now. Like if it was on cable right now on streaming service, I would sit up and watch it and probably be amused.
I think Christmas is my favorite holiday, and so I've tried to watch as many Christmas movies as I possibly can. And I think I can attest to the fact that Jingle Jangle is going to be a Christmas classic.
Oh, absolutely, man. Jingle Jangle. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh yeah. that one will be the one that families, like 20 years from now, families will watch Jingle Jangle and be like, oh yeah.
Oh yeah. That's it.
So what does it say? Like Wilson is hiding right now. What does it say that a classic movie finally came out in like 2020? We like, hey Wilson, where's your classic black film? Oh, Jingle Jangle's too new.
Well, here's the thing. The thing about watching a movie that comes out like right away, like we're talking about Jingle Jangle, we like it, but we gotta let it fester some time. Like you can't. A classic only becomes a classic over time. Every year we go through this as far as we see a movie that's good for the year, good for the time being, we see it. It's over time whether or not those movies will do good. It's like every year, these movies that get nominated for an Oscar, when they don't win, or even if it does win, you can win for the time being.
Shakespeare in Love.
Huh?
Shakespeare in
Love.
No. I watched that the other day. That's a classic.
Watch a classic to who?
No, it's not.
No, it's not. No, it's not. That Saving Private Ryan should have won the Oscar. Watch this. Rocky.
Who won that year?
No, Rocky won that year. Ask me what was nominated that year.
What was nominated that year?
All the President's Men, Network. Look, really?
Why did Rocky win? Because it was that feel-good story. Sometimes it's like, oh, here's a guy, he loses the fight, he gets the girl, Rocky.
So you saying the story of a down and out Italian stallion who beats a Muhammad Ali-esque Apollo Creed.
He doesn't win.
Yeah, he doesn't win, but he fought hard, and they had a nice soundtrack.
Wasn't the Champ nominated for Best Picture? The Champ
with John Boyd.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, come on, man.
You know what I'm saying? Like those stories seem to do well with an audience, and I think we can go down a list. And as far as how many movies won, because like you look at Slumdog Millionaire,
Good movie.
I'm saying like,
still a good movie.
It captured the heart of a lot of people. Sometimes it's like
you just swung over the screen as you were talking and tried to play it off like it wasn't there, like he did like this. Look,
it's a ruler. One of those things that you try to measure something, measuring stick. Anyway,
go ahead.
Anyway, but there's every year there's movies that are technically good, and the story's good, and then there are movies that like it just felt good, and that's what you're always gonna get. You can go back in hindsight, like look at the year Brokeback Mountain lost to Crash, and Crash resonated or got people's attention than Brokeback Mountain. Now, there are probably other reasons for Brokeback Mountain not winning that year, even though everybody was winning every other award. It's like, okay, but when you're talking to the people that need to vote, they're voting with their heart as opposed to like what's fundamentally like, oh, production design is all good and all like Titanic won on the strength of like, yo, this is a good story, but cinematography and all of that stuff was, top notch, and so sometimes you get the will of the people. You look at Green Book. People like that movie despite what people had to say and the controversy. At the end of the day, it's like, if you take out the rhetorics as far as what's being written, and you just go see a movie. A lot of us, before we even got in this business, we grew up watching TV, and you're watching a movie. You're not reading the behind the scenes thing. And it all depends on your upbringing to whether or not you had something against Green Book. Depending on where people grew up, so some people, they don't know, and they don't know the story, and they see it, and they say, oh, it's another version of Driving Miss Daisy type, the reversed angle. That's if you've seen enough or whatever. But if you've seen it for the first time, you'll get a whole different take.
I think Wilson is really right, and it kind of cycles us back to where we started with this conversation. It's really the test of time that defines what a classic is. We talked about It's a Wonderful Life coming out and bombing, and then it just grew in time after. So I may say Jingle Jangle is great, but if it doesn't resonate with an audience 10, 15 years down the road, it's not going to work. But
and to your think about it. It's a Netflix movie. What other Netflix film that they've produced that you're still talking about 5 years later?
Roma.
Huh?
That hasn't been 5 years.
Which one?
Roma.
Yeah, exactly. Roma nominated for 10 nominations.
I'm sorry.
No, but I'm saying, like, Roma was nominated for 10 nominations. Throughout this pandemic, no one's talking Roma. Look at throughout this pandemic, I don't see anybody trending The Irishman. It's like,
what about Beast of No Nations?
Yeah, no one's talking about these movies that played. The difference is, and what's sad about it is that, like, unlike when your movie's in the theaters and it comes back out, you have another marketing phase, DVD, VHS, then it plays on HBO or Showtime, and then it comes on to network television. That was the beauty back then. Now it's more about, like, oh, if it's on Netflix, you won't see it anywhere else but Netflix.
Right.
And the way its model is, you're not going to find it on Netflix unless you go searching for it.
Right.
It's like Beast of No Nation. When you pull up your Netflix, it ain't on your queue,
What about Mudbound?
Yeah, Mudbound. It ain't even up.
Great
it's
movie.
Probably there. It's their own product, but, like, no one's searching for it, because it doesn't come up in your top queue unless you're specifically looking for a certain background.
So Wilson, before we get out of here, we got like a minute and a half to go, man. Tell people not necessarily just where they can follow you, but what review content do you have up this week?
Well, you can look for coming up soon, Ma Rainey, and then whatever else is there once the embargo lifts over at Black Film and TV. I never know these things. I just go with the date and try to be all diplomatic. I'm like, oh, you want it up now? Okay, let me do it. I'm not in a rush to be the first one out with some of these things. It's like, I rather do it when people are ready to see it, because when you review these movies early, what people who see these things early? Industry people. The common folks don't see it until it's ready to come out.
Okay, Charles, look, lesson from Wilson. All right. So having said that,
better late than never.
having said that, you can go to FilmGordon right now, and there's Mank, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Godmother, and I'm Your Woman. That's up right now.
Did I find your review for The App That Stole Christmas?
Well, I heard through the grapevine that Charles Kirkland has got a review coming, but
and I may be interviewing Ray J. They want me to talk to him. I'm going to submit that for your next week's article, for next week's show.
The App That Stole Christmas.
It's like,
FilmGordon here. We're going to be talking to Ray J.
The only Christmas movie I think I've seen that's worse than that, that's new, is it called Dolly Parton on the Square?
Now, did you see it?
Oh, yeah. I watched the first 10 minutes and then I tapped out. I was like...
Yeah, you can't see anything that's worse if you haven't seen it. You know,
I saw Christmas in Compton.
Say, I don't know who's in that one. Who's in that? Tiny Lester.
No, Christmas in Compton. What's the L letter the L level actor that was in it? He's not
Oh.
an A or B. He's like an L level. I forget the guy's name. Google Christmas in Compton. It was bad.
See, I don't do that. For all y'all folks out there, I don't be classifying you as L level. You see? That's not me.
Hey, man, you's an L. You know how they used to say L7? You's an L level actor. You an actor that your level is so far.
You know, like Tim be saying, like, did you find this movie in a bodega? I was like, yeah, I don't. He got the names. He be like, yo, I was checking out. You know, they have those DVDs on the side.
Hey,
you know,
man. I was standing in line and your movie, I bought a copy of your movie and some Skittles at the same time.
True story. I told this actor that I saw his movie. He said, how'd you see it? No lie. The Chinaman gave it to me for $1. in a pizza store. In a pizza store.
All right, man. Let's get out of here, man. Because I can't do these Wilson True confessions, man. That's funny. That's
like,
funny.
For $1. I'm like, what?
That's funny.
Clear copy.
All right, so please, before we get out of here, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to blackfilmandtv.com. You got to keep following these black journalists, man. Plus, Charles Kirkland is writing up the most amazing reviews for the stank-a-dankiest movies, and you don't want to miss that. Because the brother gave C to Godmother, and I was like, a C? Wow, bruh. Man, you good, Charles.
It wasn't that bad.
It wasn't. You know,
Okay,
I wouldn't give it an A, but you know, it's like that's all I can say. I won't give it an A.
Please see something good at the movies. Until next time, thank you to Wilson Morales. Thank you to my brother Charles Kirkland. And we out. We'll see you guys next week. Hopefully, I'll have a guest on because Wilson promised us a guest this week.
I'll be submitting some stuff to you. So
and I'm gonna tell you who will not be on the show. Whoever Ray J is playing and the After Soul Christmas, he will not be on the show next week. Love you, Ray J, but not on this show. Not for that movie. All right. Until next week, you guys take care. Look at Wilson's face, man. It's great. Until next week, you guys take care, man, and we'll see you guys on the other side. Peace.
All right.